let's turn now to Johnson's finances. How much is he worth?
We're estimating that Speaker Johnson is worth about $350,000. That's a much smaller number than a lot of the numbers that I'm typically reporting on these politicians. And that's really the big takeaway here, I think, is he is the least wealthy House Speaker of this century. Everyone from Nancy Pelosi, who's the only Democratic Speaker of this century, to John Boehner, Paul Ryan, Kevin McCarthy, and Dennis Hastert, all Republicans, all of them have been worth significantly more than Speaker Johnson.
Does he come from a wealthy family?
No. His father was an assistant fire chief in Shreveport, Louisiana, and was actually injured really badly in a fire accident when Johnson was only 12. So he was on disability for a long time, and he doesn't come from money is the short answer here. He lived a pretty working class upbringing.
He's the least wealthy speaker in a century, but can you break down his assets for us? What makes up his smaller fortune?
So of that $350,000, you've got his home, which is about $300,000 of that. The home is worth $600,000. It's got about $300,000 of debt on it. These are all Forbes' estimates. Aside from that, he's got some retirement assets, and he's got some additional debt that brings it up to about $350,000. And that's it. That's the totality of his finances. I will note that he has said in the past he does have a checking account, but he chooses not to disclose it. Unlike most members of Congress, he chooses not to disclose it on his financial disclosure. You're not technically required to if the account doesn't bear interest. So he's not, he's within the law here and everything. But most members of Congress do tend to declare their checking accounts. So it's a little bit odd that he doesn't. So he could have this big stash of cash in an interest-free checking account, and we just don't know. That seems unlikely, but it's certainly possible. He strikes me as somebody who is, for the most part, living closer to paycheck than the average, Speaker of the House in recent years.
We do know that he's been married for a couple decades now. Does his wife contribute to his fortune at all?
Not really, no. His wife, for the most part, has not been a major contributor to the fortune. She did, after he became a member of Congress, she did found a Christian Christian counseling firm that provides sort of religious-based counseling to people. And she made as much as $50,000 a year from that in various years since he joined the House of Representatives. So, she has been contributing, some income to the household, but it hasn't been an enormous amount of money.
And you're reporting that on the horizon, he could be facing an upcoming potential financial setback. What does that look like?
This is something that I think a lot of Americans might relate to, especially Americans older than you and me. He's got 4 kids, and they're getting to be college age pretty soon. So, he's going to have to send them to college. College is not a cheap prospect in this country, as we know. And so depending on where they end up going, he's going to have to be either his kids are going to be taking on debt, or, he's going to be helping them pay for that. Again, I think it just underscores he doesn't have a lot of savings that he's going to be able to dip into in order to back up a financial venture like that.
Kyle, you noted throughout our conversation here that he is the least wealthy of all speakers in the past century. Why is that?
To put it really simply, Speaker Johnson didn't have a particularly lucrative pre-Congress career, unlike some of his colleagues or predecessors as Speaker. He also didn't marry rich. Nancy Pelosi's husband, for example, is a venture capital guy. She has a very, very lengthy financial disclosure, and essentially all of it is her husband's assets, just to pick one example there. So he hasn't come from money, he hasn't made an enormous amount of money, and he didn't marry into money. That kind of sums it up.